You're listening to the How to Talk to Girls podcast with your dating coach, Trip, from tripadvice.com. Do you struggle with getting girls to like you? You'll learn step by step how to talk to girls to create deep connections, whether it be for one night of wild fun, a 1-week fling.
Are you currently involved in a sexual relationship?
Or for a lifelong partner.
Full of long-lasting pleasure.
Here's your host, Trip.
Hello and welcome to the How to Talk to Girls podcast. This is your host, Trip, from tripadvice.com, and today's episode is sponsored by Spartagen XT, which is your all-natural supplement to help you boost your testosterone and boost your sex drive. So if you have any issues with keeping it up in the bedroom or issues with low testosterone, I want you to go to SpartanLibido.com to check this out, because this is going to be very helpful for you. And like I said, all natural, filled with herbs, filled with vitamins, and it's really much geared towards helping you become a rock star in the bedroom. So maybe you finish too fast, maybe you're dealing with nervousness, anxiety around erectile dysfunction. Check it out, SpartanLibido.com. And a lot of guys have already ordered it and said great things about it. So highly suggest it. Let's move on to our episode of the day. Now we're going to be doing something a little bit different here. I mean, it's the same thing. I'll be answering a voicemail. People who call in to the How to Talk to Girls hotline, which is 323-432-0025. But today is a little different because we're going to be answering a question about divorce and what it's going to take for you to get back in the game in terms of divorce. But we're also going to be talking a little bit about ghosting, which is going to be something that's going to really pertain to all of you. So it doesn't matter how old you are. I'm sure there's a lot of ghosting going on. So I'm going to give you some tips on that because I've dealt with ghosting before. And I'll be honest, I actually ghosted someone before also. It's kind of an accident. I felt like kind of a dick for it. But doing it kind of taught me a lesson and helped me learn what to do if it does happen to me and if it happens to you. So we'll be talking about all that today inside of a voicemail that was left here, asking some of those questions from a guy named Ryan. So he'll be asking that in a second, and then we'll answer the question. If you have a question, you can call in 323-432-0025. Call into the How to Talk to Girls hotline and ask me any question, and I'll answer it regarding dating, sex, relationships, and that general idea. So go ahead and do that. You can also email me, trip@tripadvice.com, and I will try to answer your podcast question here on the podcast. So put in the subject line podcast question and we'll get to it. Sound good? Fantastic. All right, so without further ado, let's listen to this voicemail from Ryan talking about his issues with meeting women who may or may not be married and dealing with ghosting. Here it is.
Trip, hi, my name is Ryan. I'm 36 years old. I live in Utah. And I've been listening to your podcast for a little bit now. I greatly appreciate it. I'm actually a recent divorcee of 2 children. I'm kind of back in the game, which has been quite the experience. And I'm learning that things are pretty different. I was married for almost a decade. Things are quite different from when I dated and married my ex. So I have a couple questions. A lot of the people who are in my age bracket, women, that is, are married. And a lot of them don't wear rings. For example, where I work and in the field that I work in is medical, and so there are a lot of medical people who don't wear rings. I don't really have problems talking to women, but it's sealing the deal. Finding things in common, I find doing that. I find approaching even. It's sealing the deal and finding out if they're married. I know the easiest thing would just be to come out and be like, hey, are you married? But I don't know why. I guess it kind of bugs me when people would do that to my wife. Truth be told. So that's the first thing is how is a good way to just get in there and be like, hey, you married? The second thing would be about ghosting. Something that I'm not used to, and it's happened a couple of times. And after going through a relationship that I really valued and then had kind of go down the tube, ghosting is something that I've had kind of a hard time with. So maybe if you could give some advice on what to do in a situation where you've been ignored or ghosted by somebody that you like, and maybe some advice as to how we can get over those issues. Again, appreciate it. Thanks for all you do, and I hope you're well. Take care.
All right, Ryan, thanks so much for calling in and asking your question. Great question, by the way. And again, like I always do for every voicemail I receive, I want to just thank you and tell you that you are a brave man for coming on here and sharing your experience. And big thanks from me and all the other listeners out there so we can learn from this interesting experience. Now, I'm going to be really straightforward here. Well, what else is new? I'm always straightforward with my advice. When it comes to finding out if a girl has a boyfriend, if a girl is married, if a woman is taken, you got to leave it mostly in their hands, okay? They're going to tell you if they're married or not, okay? And I know what you just said there. You said, oh, they don't usually say anything, or sometimes they have a ring, or they don't have a ring on. So if they don't have a ring on, that means that they're not married per se, but some of them are. Most women who don't have a ring are not married. Okay, that is the fact of the matter. No, not all of them, but a large majority are not married. Okay, so just keep that in mind. So don't go in there thinking all of a sudden, I think she's married. You should really go in there with the default mindset that this girl, woman, whoever you're talking to, is not married if they don't have a ring. Okay, that's the same idea that you might have heard before. I've talked about assuming a girl's attracted to you. I didn't make that up, by the way. That's old advice, old sage advice from years ago. I don't remember where it's from, where you assume that the girl's attracted to you. You don't assume that she's not, because then you're going to be playing it a lot different. You're going to be like in this mindset of trying to convince them that they like you. You got to just go in thinking that they already like you. Okay, we're getting off track. But what I'm trying to say is that assume that this woman, if there is no ring, that she's not married. So what does that mean? What does that mean practically for you? That means that you're going to go into this really being the same you that you're going to be. You're going to be doing the same things that you would normally be doing, okay, which means finding out what you guys have in common, flirting with her, doing all the nice little things to show her that you are a man and get her attracted, right? All that good stuff. And then as things go on, if you see that she's interested, go for the number. And here's the little trick. This is what I want you to do. And if this sounds weird to you, because I know that it did. I can tell by your voice you were saying like, oh, it feels weird to ask them if they're married, right? It's weird to ask them if they're married. Now, I know that might seem weird, but it's only weird if you think it. By the way, this is how powerful our minds are. If you can convince yourself that something is normal or not weird, then all of a sudden it won't be, because the person that you're with will also treat it in that same vein. Okay, so you got to make sure that you want to act as if. Okay, if you act as if, then other people feel comfortable with what's going on. So if you ask her if she's married and you're cool with it, and you're not like, hey, so I gotta ask, are you married? Like if you have a delivery like that, then yeah, you're going to sound a little bit foolish and you're going to sound not as confident, but you can say it like this. You guys can be exchanging numbers. By the way, that's the trick I'm going to teach you right now, is you want to do it right before you get her number. So, and you can even like tell a funny story, right? So you can say to her, as you're getting her number, you can say, oh, wait, before I get your number, I have to ask, are you married? Right? So you're going to say it kind of like that, like more casual. And here's the thing. Couple things are going to happen. She's either going to say oh, actually I am. And then you can say, oh, well, I shouldn't be confusing you. I actually was getting your number because I wanted to take you out on a date. But if you're married, then no problem. It was really great to meet you and had a nice time talking to you, right? Something like that. Or she's trying to cheat on her husband and she still wants to meet with you, which I will never condone. I think that's a very bad thing. And Ryan, I'm getting the vibes that you probably think that's bad too. So you walk away from the situation. Now, the other thing, which is probably way more likely, the other response that she's going to give you is she's going to say something to the effect of, oh, no, I'm not married. What? How would you think that? I'm not even wearing a ring. And you could say, I know this sounds pretty crazy, but, I've talked to a few girls in the past couple of years, and you can say after my divorce if that has come up in the conversation. Probably hasn't, but whatever. And if it doesn't, you don't have to say that, but you can say, oh, in the past couple of years, I've talked to some girls or talked to some women, and they gave me their number and they didn't even have a ring on, but then I found out that they were married. You can say something like that and be like, whoa, look, it's a crazy story. Like almost as if like you can't believe that this has happened. You can't believe that there are women out there who aren't wearing rings and are still, going on dates, or, I'm guessing in your situation, Ryan, those girls maybe that didn't have the ring on, you'd go talk to, and then they'd say, oh, I'm married, and then you can say that too. You say, it's really interesting. I met some women out there who are married, but they don't wear their rings. Have you ever heard of this? And so and then that gives you a reason of why you're asking, right? And then she's just going to be like, okay, cool. So that's the thing, is that I would bring that up towards the end of the conversation, towards the point where you're getting the number. And of course, if she says she's married, well, then that's it, And a lot of guys might be like, well, Trip, I don't even want to waste my time. How can I bring this up, sometime earlier in the conversation? I don't want to sit here for 45 minutes. Let me tell you something. First of all, you got to look at all this as practice and also as meeting a new person. Every approach that you ever do is never a waste of time. Okay. I don't care if the girl says she's a lesbian by the end of it. Okay. Or she's got a boyfriend, whatever it is. It's never a waste of time, because every single conversation you have, every approach that you do, every interaction that you have is going to be beneficial for you in the long run, because it's more practice. It's more socializing, which is good to work out your social muscle. I always tell you that, right? It's always good to just talk to more people so you can kind of keep up your, just your skills, right? I mean, it's going to take a long time and a lot of approaches to do to get really good. So you want to really hone in those skills. So every conversation is going to be really important. And yes, even for you, Ryan, a guy who says, oh, I'm good at approaching, I'm good at this, I'm good at this, I'm good at this. Still, it doesn't matter. You can't get enough practice, right? I'm sure Michael Jordan is still shooting basketballs, right? Well, he's doing it because he loves it, but that's the mindset too. You got to go in this because you love it. You enjoy this. This is not just some sort of process that you want to get, done with as quickly as possible. Of course, you want it to be fast, but every interaction counts. And here's the other great thing. Okay. Every interaction that you have, every conversation that you have is something new to put in your toolbox for conversation. See, one of the great things, and this is a whole other podcast probably, but I'll tell you right now, one of the great things about all the conversations that you're going to be having once you start doing a lot of approaches is you can take those conversations and those experiences and those interactions and bring them into your future interactions. Okay, so what I mean by that is you're going to be talking to a girl one time and you guys will be talking about something, and let's just say, for example, I don't know, you're talking about some music, okay? You're talking about the band U2, just coming up with this off the top of my head. And let's say that you already previously talked to another girl or guy, whoever, about U2, and they told you something interesting about the band, or a time they met Bono or something like that. You can bring that information and that story into this new conversation. Okay, I hope you follow there. Let me just clarify this once again, is that all the conversations you have will bring more experiences and give you more ammo for future conversations. So there's never a waste. I mean, look at this, Ryan. Here's a prime example. All the conversations with all these girls that you've had that happen to be married but aren't wearing a ring, that is your new story that you can tell the next woman that you talk to who asks, why are you asking me that question? Well, you have a reason. You have a story, right? Life is made up of all these experiences and stories, and those are the things that you can bring into your interactions and bring with you. Seriously, huge, powerful stuff, okay? This has been a jam-packed podcast here. Lots of lessons. This is great. Now let's talk about ghosting. All right, ghosting. So ghosting is something that you're going to be dealing with no matter what happens. So just expect it. That's the first thing. Kind of like getting rejected, right? I always say that you're going to get rejected no matter what happens. You're going to get rejected, and it's inevitable, and it's nothing that you're going to be able to avoid 100%. Of course, you can avoid rejection sometimes, by learning all the stuff that I talk about here in the podcast. But it's still going to happen once in a while. Same thing with ghosting. Ghosting is going to happen. You're going to get a girl who's not going to be interested in you, and she is going to just not respond. Okay. And it hurts. I get it. It stings. You're a human. It's not that easy to just say like, oh, well, she ghosted. It happens. I get it. It sucks. But just with the knowledge of the fact that it is going to happen and you know that, and now I'm telling you that, like that's not an uncommon thing. It happens, or I should say it is a common thing. Let's not use double negatives here. It's a common thing that happens. Okay. You're going to get ghosted. So just remember that. Now I'll tell you a little story. I've accidentally ghosted some girls, and I say accidentally pretty loosely because I kind of did it. But not really purposefully. I just thought it wasn't really a big deal because we barely had a connection. I didn't even think that she liked me. So I didn't really end up responding to her, and it wasn't like I didn't respond to a question. I just didn't respond to her, when she texted me something that was some sort of statement. Anyways, I'm not proud of it. I look back at those instances and I wish I didn't do that. I'm not perfect, and neither are you. And that's just kind of how it goes. But if I look back at that, I wish I would have actually said something. And so, what you really want to do in those cases, and I'll tell you how I came up with this, is because when I accidentally ghosted someone, she called me out on it. She totally did. She told me, that it's not cool that I did that, and that, I just kind of disappeared. Again, I think she was being a little bit sensitive because it's not like I went on 5 dates with her and all of a sudden I disappeared. Like we went on one barely kind of crappy date, just because we realized we didn't really have much of a connection and it didn't really work out. But she made me feel nice and bad about it. And I realized I didn't really like the way that she went about it. So I was thinking, what would I have rather had her do? I was just kind of, because I'm thinking about this stuff all the time. Because I teach it, I think about it. So what would I have had her do? And then I came up with this thing that I'm going to share with you now that you can do the next time someone ghosts on you. Okay. And this is really, it's not a technique that's going to get her to be like, well, I like you now, right? Because if a girl ghosts on you, you're kind of done. You did something wrong. And when I say wrong, I don't mean like you fucked up, like you're the bad person here. But there wasn't a connection, right? It just didn't click. It just didn't click between the two of you, right? Something just didn't go right for her. Hence why I said wrong. But the point is that something got messed up there, and that's a learning lesson for you. So hopefully you can try to analyze it and figure out what you did better. But here's a really good text to send. And again, this is up to you. You don't have to send this. I'm not saying if you get ghosted, send this text. It's crucial. But you know what? If you want to do it for fun and kind of see what happens, go for it. But you text something. And again, this isn't word for word, but this is the general concept or the general idea of what you're going to say. Say something along the lines of, hey, thought we had a good time the other night. I guess you probably don't feel the same because, I haven't heard from you. I just want to know if there's any feedback that you have for me going forward. Hope you're well. And this is really cool because this is a very mature way of going about it. Now, I know some of you are like, oh, am I really going to say this feedback? Like it sounds so unsexy. This is not the point. We're not trying to be sexy here. We're not trying to attract her again. But you know what? The funny thing is if you use this could actually work in getting her interested again because you're just being so blunt. Okay. So you're going to say something along the lines of, hey, I was just looking for some feedback, seeing what was going on. And so hopefully she responds and says, oh, that's really cool. She'll probably say something along the lines of like, oh, I just didn't feel a connection. Or she might be brutally honest and say, you know what? I didn't like that you did this or this. Or she'll say something that could be true, could be bullshit, like, oh, I'm just really busy at work and da-da. Whatever it is, it gives you at least a little bit of closure. It tells you like, oh, I kind of know what's going on now. And it gives you the opportunity to actually hear from her and see what she said. And, you're allowing her you're giving her this opportunity to be honest. Like you're kind of creating this space for her to be honest with you, to tell you maybe something you could do better next time. And that's freaking awesome. That is amazing. That is so mature. This is not happening these days. People are too scared to tell each other what they're feeling. Why? I mean, I don't know why. I'm not really sure why people are so scared. I guess, well, let's be honest. It's easier to just ghost and not respond at all and not do anything than have to tell your feelings, right? It's a lot a lot easier to just do nothing. People are kind of lazy. You can hide behind your screen. That's what we're doing these days. We're hiding behind our screen. We're hiding behind these, these profiles and these avatars and things like that. So we're so used to that. But it's really not that hard to just be like, hey, I want to know what happened, what's going on, and say it in a way where you let them know that this is an open table. You're not going to be hurt. You're a big boy. You're not going to take it too personally. And that's kind of the vibe that you're giving. So if you're being ghosted, I would go with that route. See what happens. Try it once, see what happens with that. Now, if you want to prevent from being ghosted, well, that's just going to be due to attraction. If you're getting ghosted, she's not interested in you. So to prevent ghosting and to take it to the next level, Ryan, is really you being more in your game and getting on a deeper connection. I don't know because you didn't give me enough information, but what it sounds like is maybe you're really good at small talk. Maybe you're really good at keeping a nice casual conversation going, but are you going deeper with them? I mean, yes, it's nice to see what you two have in common, but are you really connecting with them? Are you really finding out more about them on a deeper level? Are you guys sharing an experience together, laughing together, enjoying the moment together? Or is it just two people kind of chatting back and forth about their statistics and their profiles, so to speak? When I say profile, I just mean like you're just kind of listing off, your likes and your dislikes and this and that and all that, in person, right, in the conversation. So that's what you got to think about. You got to think about how you can get on a deeper level with them, connect with them to really spark that attraction. And again, like I said, if she ghosts, well, I mean, you know what? It's just a girl that's not for you, and you'll move on because, like I always say, there are so many women out there and so many new ways to meet them. All right, so keep it up, and hopefully you will find someone pretty awesome. So that's today's podcast. I hope that you learned something. Ryan, thanks for calling in again. Great question. If you have a question, you can call in 323-432-0025 because I got way more podcasts coming up and I want to answer your stuff regarding dating, sex, and relationships. So go ahead and call in and we'll get to it. Thanks for listening. We'll see you on the next episode.
Don't forget to subscribe to the podcast and write a review. Over 18 and want a question answered on the podcast? Email all your questions to Trip@tripadvice.com.